in November, right after the accident that claimed the life of my infant niece, Sterna, and left my sister Henya on life support, my sister Chani flew in from Eilat to the United States. And our son picked her up from the airport. In the car, Chani asked, this is a teenage boy, Leivik, she asked him, "What is your younger sister up to?" And Leivik replied, "Production. She's up to her high school, she's busy with her high school musical production." So that's pretty impressive, right? A teenage boy who knows exactly what his little sister is up to. But Chani pressed on. "What's the production about? What's her part?" It's like, yikes, now you're pushing it, right? That's a little more than one would expect a bacher to know about what his sister's up to. When I first got the call informing me of the accident, I was on the way back from Kazakhstan. I'd stopped in Turkey. My brother Levi called me to tell me about what had happened with Henya and Sterna. And life got brutally real very, very fast. The first thing I did was I suspended my travelogue, social media postings that I had been doing. And as we were leaving Turkey, and my mind was just racing with trying to figure out what was going on and to process everything. The one thing that I guess was clear in my mind's eye was what I wrote as I suspended. I wrote, "Listen, I'm going to stop with the postings. I just didn't feel it was appropriate." I wrote, here is where the rubber hits the road. And now we need to put into practice everything that we believe, or something on those lines. So Henya's loss and the now 13 or so weeks, the roller coaster weeks between the accident and her passing, were obviously a devastating experience. And the fact that she was a young mother of a large family in the prime of her life, a respected community leader, a colleague, and so much more to so many different people and so many different types of people, and in a shocking accident that also took her infant daughter, might push this whole thing to the real edges of human experience. But if you're a thoughtful person, the emotions, the thoughts, your responses, the responses you experience as you navigate the tragedy, the pressure, the sadness, and what you go through with all of it can really teach you a lot about yourself and about human nature and about hope and about love. And as a parent who was being very closely observed by my children, I had a decision to make. Nechama and I had a decision to make. Either I'm going to focus solely on the circumstances at hand. I'm busy with a crisis right now. I'll walk my children through all of this later on, or I could choose to share it with them in real time, to the extent possible, obviously under the pressures, the information that you're absorbing, the challenges, the worries, the dilemmas that you're experiencing. Now, it's totally fair in such a situation to not worry very much in real time about exactly how your children are experiencing it. Especially when you're dealing with, whatever you're dealing with really does take everything out of you. But it's important to recognize that 12 weeks of communicative parenting through a crisis can take the place of decades of academic conversations. The messy reality of life is far more effective than the sterile laboratory of ideas that you might want to teach your kids. And of course, these questions come up. What if I say too much? Or how can I tell them I'm finding a challenge in something so basic? Or can I share that I might actually disagree with an important decision someone else is making under these circumstances? But in the big picture, I think that the benefits far outweigh the risks. Do you want them to look back and remember you as a closed box, puzzling over what was happening so close to them, yet so distant at the same time? And is the goal here really for them to think that you're Superman? Or do you want them to walk away with tools for life? As you go through this experience, if you expose, make yourself vulnerable and share with them some of the questions, some of what's going on, some of what you're struggling with, some of what you're not struggling with. It's, I hate to call it an opportunity, but you have the opportunity, which I don't wish on anyone, to teach them how to be introspective and self-critical while under pressure, and to articulate what they're struggling with, and when to ask for help, and how to go beyond their comfort zone, and still understand their own limits, and how to make decisions under duress, and how to handle the conflict or the balance between faith and cold, hard reality. And perhaps most importantly, how to be self-aware and self-critical, and how to prioritize what's right over what I need in a situation like this, and how to work as a team and as a family, even while retaining one's individuality. Making them a part of the real life heartbreak and sadness and reality with all of its messy tentacles, each child, obviously in an age-appropriate way, will actually, I respectfully submit, will actually help you manage your way through it. And it'll help prepare them to navigate life with confidence. God forbid, hopefully they'll never be in a situation like this, but even obviously just day-to-day life, it'll give them more confidence, it'll lead them, and it'll also lead, in my humble opinion, or in my case, to a tremendous closeness, a closening of the relationship between you and your child. And as a bonus, if you make yourself vulnerable, the chances go way, way up that they will come to you when they have a struggle. Anyway, going back to what I started with, though, about my sister Chani, and her conversation with Leivik right when she came, a couple Friday nights ago, the end of our Shabbos Su'udah turned into a very wide-ranging 5-hour conversation with several of our children, the older children that were home at the time. And it left us, Nechama and I, as parents, with so many notes to unpack, to talk about, to reflect on, of things that were discussed with our children. Of course, we discussed Henya, and we discussed dating and marriage and priorities in life, and what good parenting looks like, and what the payoffs are of good parenting. And there's one specific lesson that we discussed that I just thought was very, very relevant. It's actually something that Nechama has been pointing out from the beginning of this situation here with Henya. And we discussed, as somebody who lost a sister only 6 weeks ago, only can discuss maybe, sibling relationships, and more specifically, why and how to build and cultivate and nurture close relationships with your siblings. They're practically the only people that you can pretty much know will be with you in life forever. And we discussed how absolutely beautiful it is to be a part of one another's lives. And obviously, thank God, our children love one another. Hopefully all siblings love one another and are close with one another. But about really paying attention in the way that my sister Chani's question was, really being a part of one another's lives. Your siblings will always be your siblings, and they're the only people you can really know, whether you like it or not, they're going to be a part of your life forever with Hashem's help. And the beauty of having those close relationships and not taking them for granted, and making sure to really even invest in those relationships and pay attention to them. And yes, if you're a teenage boy, to know what your sister's production is about, or whatever it is at each stage in life, and to really work on that closeness. Not just on okay, of course we're siblings, so we're close and we'll do anything for one another, but even on a day-to-day practical level. Anyway, so that's one of the many things that I'd like to think of myself as a thinking person, but something that this whole situation, this absolute disaster with Henya, that's one of the less, perhaps, the ones that are easier to talk about, and something that I wanted to share. Thanks for listening.